Welcome back to People, Passion, Power. Our guest today is a very dear friend of mine. We've known each other for 20 years, something like that, a long time.
Yeah.
And I am so excited that she's our guest because now I get to call her an author. She's always been an avid traveler and a self-described foodie. And we welcome to the show JoAnn Hill. And I left one of the most important things out, by the way. Your title just keeps growing. Educator, influencer. You have all these titles, but this is so cool, JoAnn.
Thank you.
Secret, a guide to the weird, wonderful, and obscure. And I promise you, there are things in here you don't know about DC, even if you live here.
I don't think you do. Jason, thanks again for having me. It's really fun to be here.
This is exciting. This is exciting. So tell us how this came to be. It's real. Here it is. I know you and I have been talking about it for a while.
It's so real when you can hold it into your hands, right? And you hear that other people are actually like reading it and checking it out and refer to it. So that makes it so much realer. This book came as kind of a surprise, and one of the best surprises. As you said, I travel a lot, so I write a travel blog. And I met a girl many years ago in Egypt, and my husband and I were traveling. And she is also a writer, and she lives in Texas. And we've kept in touch over the years. And she has followed my blog and followed my travels throughout the years. And so about 2 years ago, she reached out to me randomly and said, I'm writing a travel book for Galveston, Texas. I think that you should do the same for Washington, D.C. I'm going to put you in touch with my publisher. I mean, it was just this random text. And so I look at my phone, and of course I am kind of dumbfounded, and I look to my husband and say, I don't know how to write a book. But it was like, you figure it out. So I reached out to the publisher. We started talking. I sent some writing samples. We went back and forth, and within a few weeks, I had a contract, and I had this project, and I started. And so that's kind of how it started. And so it's one of those things about when opportunity comes, you always say yes. Right? You always say yes. You never say no.
Maybe. Depends on the opportunity.
Well, if a good opportunity arises.
A good one. Okay,
yes.
Got it. So you moved into it, and it's here. And I want to get into it fairly quickly because the content is so fun. So I'm going to hit you with these questions, and we'll go fast because you'll I want to get to some of the content in here, which is most exciting for me. You live in D.C. 3 spots, if you had to guess, 2 spots maybe, that are in here that people that are in DC that are identified in the book that they don't know about?
Spots.
Yeah.
Okay. I would say one of the places, I'm going to say the call boxes downtown. So if you think about it, when you walk around the city, you see call boxes and operable call boxes everywhere. There are about 200 throughout the city. But there are 8, there were supposed to be 9, that are specifically designed and were refurbished to pay on a tribute to women, historical women. And not the more known women like Susan B. Anthony, but women, Katharine Graham is one of them, but women like activists and a lot of African American women in history who were not necessarily spotlighted throughout history. So these 8 call boxes downtown near like Metro Center, McPherson Square, are gorgeous. They're art installations. They honor the female. There's like a beautiful picture of the female. They're decorated, they're colored, they're painted. I mean, they're pieces of art. And they also give information about those women. And so I think that they're easy to walk by, right? Because they're on the sidewalk. And a lot of people just don't know to stop and see them. But between about 13th and 15th Streets, G to L Northwest, these call boxes are scattered, and they're stunning. And they're art installations that pay tribute to women. So that's one.
So did you know about those before you started researching for the book?
No, I did not.
Cool.
I knew about, obviously, call boxes, and I always wondered, like, why are there so many call boxes around the city, and what do they do with them? And so now this project specifically was designed to refurbish these women, or these call boxes to pay tribute. And I think some other call boxes around the city have also. If you start looking, you'll notice some have not been refurbished and some have. But they're cool. They're historical markers that people don't know a lot.
I feel uneducated because I don't know about them.
There's nothing to I didn't know about this either. And so the other thing I think is the cemeteries. I visited a lot of cemeteries that, of course, you don't go to a cemetery unless you
go to a cemetery.
Unless you have to.
Yep.
Congressional is different, right? Like people, I go and I
For
walk
the dog
through
walking.
Congressional. I take my dog and so forth. But one of the cemeteries I went to was in Northeast. It's Glenwood Cemetery. And they have these chainsaw sculptures. This is actually like one of the examples that this artist decided to design these sculptures. There's 4 of them that are like carved and really ornate and huge that are like looming out. So there's these pieces of art that they put into the cemetery, which is kind of cool. It's definitely an attraction that people go there on purpose for that. But then there's also other cemeteries. You know, there's one actually not too far from where you live in Alexandria, where there's a female. It's the tomb of like the unknown stranger who's a female who they don't know who this woman was.
Yeah.
But it has this crazy story that they basically when she died, nobody knew who they were. They were like basically just individuals who came off a boat. They went to the Gadsby Tavern, which was very prominently known. You know, Jefferson had stayed there, Aaron Burr had stayed there. And they came into this tavern and they said, you know, my wife's really sick. We need to stay here. Can you give us a doctor? But they were isolated. They were really, 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 they were like recluses. Nobody knew who they were. She died. And so the gentleman wanted her buried there. And he wanted this like huge ordeal and this huge event for this woman that nobody knew. Nobody knew their names.
Yeah.
So he signed a check. It was a forgery. And she's still in this cemetery, St. Paul's in Alexandria, has this huge table that honors her to the unknown stranger. And there's all these rumors of who she is. So there's a rumor that she might be Aaron Burr's daughter, Theodosia, who was lost at sea. So I guess all to say is that I found myself in cemeteries in these random places throughout the city I never would have gone to, and they're fascinating. Like, there's so many cool stories and pieces of history.
You know what's fun about this book? It's really easy, and we were talking about it just before we started to record here. You can just grab pieces. Like I can just grab a piece, and I watched one of your podcasts the other day, Hoff the Harmonica Caseman. I know you talked about him, but like you can literally just set it on your coffee table, pick it up, and just go to a chapter, a mushroom club for the fun guy and girl. What the heck is that, by the way? Help me out with that one. I haven't read this one yet, but now I need to.
So it's funny. They're a mushroom group, and it's like the Mycological Association of Washington. It's an organization, and they meet monthly. I actually have an event with them next Tuesday night. It's all about mushrooms, and so there are a bunch of individuals. It's like free to join. It might be like $5, contributions if you want to join. They talk all about mushrooms. So they talk about the science part of it and learn about fungi. But then they have events. I mean, with COVID, I'm sure it's changed quite a bit. But they would also swap recipes that have mushrooms involved, or they would do tastings of different mushrooms. They would go foraging out into forests, like in Virginia and so forth, and learn about mushrooms. So it's a really unique but pretty cool group if you're really into mushrooms. And that's literally their primary focus. They learn and study and talk all about mushrooms, but anybody can join.
The title and subtitle are so spot on. Like we're now talking about mushrooms, we're talking about cemeteries, we're talking about what else give me a couple more nuggets that are in here. Like if that hasn't piqued your curiosity yet, I don't know what else to tell you, but there's so much good in here.
So one of my favorite components of the book, I think, is that like the main places where people go and they visit, whether they're locals or tourists, right? The mall, right? Monuments, museums, memorials. They are definitely featured in this book, but it's not about, go to the Jefferson Memorial and do X, Y, and Z. It's the weird law that you can't dance in public at the Jefferson Memorial, and actually people have been arrested for dancing in public at the Jefferson Memorial. That's featured in my book. So it gives you like weird hidden stories. Another one of my favorites that is the Carousel in the National Mall. This is one of my favorite stories. So
I heard this one.
My entry talks about the Carousel came from an amusement park outside of Baltimore a few decades ago. Actually more than a few decades ago. And this park, Glen Oak, at the time was segregated. And the day that Martin Luther King gave his speech, I Have a Dream, on that same day, that park discontinued segregation. So at the same time that he's delivering his speech, it was the first time that an African-American child and 2 white children rode on the carousel simultaneously. It never happened in history. And so years later, the individuals acquired the carousel and it came from Baltimore to the National Mall. But they didn't know the story behind this. So they've had this for years and years. And then finally the owners discovered this amazing story. And so I think that's what I like about this book is, places that you've gone to, places that you have taken your family to, but stories behind them, a lot of really great stories, some scandalous, some controversial, that you probably don't know about, right? To not know about civil rights actually is kind of steeped into the Carousel's history. It's kind of cool.
It's very cool.
So those are the things that I really liked a lot, learning about. My last one I'll say,
No, we're
the
good.
American Indian Museum.
Okay. I was going to tell you about the Carousel real quick because
Yeah.
that one, I learned about that the other day, and from you, of course.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, I took my children there a bunch of times.
Of course.
And no clue. No clue.
Right, because your average person, why would you know that, right?
Yeah.
And most people aren't going to know that. And honestly, I didn't know a lot of these things
Yeah.
until I met with historians. I went on walking tours. I met with museum docents.
Yeah.
I interviewed people. I mean, I researched. I learned so much through all of this. And then going to places.
Yeah.
I went to so many places. But that's how you learn. But it was fascinating.
Yeah, so if somebody's sitting out there going, I want to learn more,
Yeah.
obviously get the book.
Yeah.
Wonderful book. And
what else?
what else? Yeah, what else do we do from
One
here?
of the best ways that I learned about the city, and it's for my book, and especially now with, of course, being outside, the weather's nice, and it's also still being distanced, safe, was walking tours. I went like DC tours by foot, Washington walks. I mean, there's so many walking tours. A lot of them are free, or some of them are, a donation of $10. Some of them are $20. They're not expensive. They're many are designed for families. Some are not. The ghost ones late at night, the scandalous ones. But to me, the tour guides know so much. They want to share wisdom and share information.
Mm-hmm.
I ask so many questions. I would say, hey, like when you have a minute, I'm writing a book. Can I ask you a couple questions? Do you mind if I jot things down? Every tour guide was more than helpful and with their time. So I would highly suggest walking tours. It's a great way to explore the city by foot.
So I know what people are thinking, like, is JoAnn going to lead a tour? I know you've heard that question.
So that's a great question. It's funny, a couple months ago, I met some people about my book, and someone actually asked me if I would work for their company as a tour guide.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a lot of stuff. At this time, I was like, I don't have time. I don't know if this is my thing. But I partnered recently with a tour guide from Off the Mall Tours. She's amazing. And we got so many questions about, can you collaborate and do a tour together?
Mm-hmm.
So that's in the works right now.
Oh,
Is that kind
nice.
of like a tour designed around the book.
Totally.
And right? And
Has to
so
be.
we do it together.
Yep.
And we pick maybe 5 or 6 spots somewhat close to each other and do a tour maybe downtown, do a tour in Alexandria, and those things. So that's in the works. We're hoping to start in July.
Oh,
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, I think it'll be a lot of fun.
As we get more information on that, if you're a fan of the show, maybe we'll give away some free tours. But you got to buy the book first. But as you get the date, let us know. We can have some fun with this stuff. These are just a couple of the things that are in here, and that's kind of what I enjoy most about it. It's not vanilla in any way, shape, or form. It's fun. You just had fun with it, and you just enjoyed it.
I did.
Why not support a local DC author who took a plunge and put something out that's fun for residents and tourists alike?
Yeah.
If people want to connect with you, where are they going to connect with you?
So a couple ways on Facebook, JoAnn Hill. On my website is secretdcbook.com.
Okay.
And they can find me on Instagram.
secretdcbook.com.
Yeah, and
Yep.
so on that website, it actually gives a lot of information about my book. There are other stories on that website that didn't make it into my book just because of space, and I had to, edit and so forth. So there are additional stories, some additional tips of exploring DC, especially like family-friendly places that you can go, events that are coming up. So the website's probably the best way to
Okay.
find me. And if you want to order the book, you can order from the website, Amazon, local bookstores, and so forth. So yeah,
Perfect.
Secret
Well, and we
DC.
want you to order the book because this supports JoAnn, and I know her very, very well. But this is cool, and supporting a local author that's putting this product out there, that's fun too. So, and order a dozen of them. Why not? Give some to family and friends.
Why not?
Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having
being
me.
you.
This
And
is so much fun. It was a conversation of friends.
Yeah.
Right? So thank you for having me.
It's a strange feeling when someone you know very, very well becomes an author. So congratulations to you. Wonderful book. And pick it up, guys.
Thanks, Jason.
Passion, pow. Yeah.